sit. It's going to be huge. Talk about trade, commodities, and it's going to impact, yes, impact on us as Kenyans. I want you to sit back and listen to this man, because don't listen to me, but Twitter and all kinds of social media have been saying he's the biggest brain in town. We need some inspiration from a big brain. His Twitter handle is at UNCTAD, UNCTAD, UNCTAD Kituyi. Mine is Akwinanga Jeff, the hashtag July Summit. My guest, Secretary General of UNCTAD, Dr. Mukhisa Kituyi. Daktari, good to see you.
Hello, thank you very much. Good evening.
Karibu sana, welcome back to Kenya. As you come a lot, don't you?
Yes, once in a while I do.
Yeah. You love this place, don't you?
Kenya is the best country in the world.
Why don't you tell those people out there, because they don't believe you?
They don't know what they're playing with. They are playing with the best, and you lose it, then you discover what you've lost.
There you go. I keep saying that, Daktari, and you have a great vantage point where you are in Geneva, looking at Kenya. You're literally looking at things from the outside, looking in. When the topic of Kenya comes up in Geneva, in your conferences, around the world, wherever you go, what's the talk? What's the topic? What's the reaction?
There are two interesting senses about Kenya. One, the Kenyan diaspora is very respected. It has earned credibility. The Kenyan is on average the most educated and highest earning African in the US. And they are reputed to be hard workers. Secondly, young Kenyans are reputed to be very innovative. If you look at what they've been able to do, riding on a digital revolution, they show what Africans are capable of doing. But on the other side, everybody says, no, with all this good stuff going for Kenya, why do they bungle it up? Why do they condemn the buildings and then they don't destroy them until they destroy human beings? Why don't they fix infrastructure? Like a little flash flood and you're all stuck with cars drowning in the middle of Nairobi? You know, this is not a terribly great promotion of the country. But the average strain is the Kenyan entrepreneur and the Kenyan scholar is miles ahead of the Kenyan politician.
Daktari, are we our worst enemy?
Sometimes you are, but also that there are other enemies apart from yourselves. You have enemies who have slowed you down. Troubles in neighboring Somalia has slowed down Kenya, this kind of lot. The absence of consistent partners on some momentum on regional integration has slowed Kenya down. Promises of the developed world to support countries like Kenya are not keeping the promises they made, has slowed you down. And global trends that are just beyond your control are making a difference. For example, you've been very, very good on manufacturing under AGOA.
Yes.
So you make textiles, basically import apparel from India, the canvas, stitch it and sell it to American market. Then Ethiopia comes along. The average worker in export processing zone in Ethiopia is 1/3 of the minimum wage in Kenya. Now that doesn't mean that Kenyans are not doing a good job, just that something happened which was beyond your control and it impacts you. So you live in the real world where dynamics are both domestic and external to what happens to you.
And stuff like coffee and tea we have no control over. And Doctor, I'll come to that in a moment. But let's come back. You mentioned the buildings being condemned but then falling or collapsing, killing people. You heard about the recent Huruma building?
Yes, unfortunately.
More than 24 killed. I think the last number was 35 and counting, because there's still dozens still trapped. Even though 6 days later, people are still being pulled out alive. Today, 4 or 5 people were pulled out alive. But what does this say about us? When did the rain, because it's been a rainy season, when did the rain start beating us, Doctor?
All right, I came back to this country this morning. The last time I was here, people are making snide jokes that government promised us El Nino and it's not coming. The government lied to us that El Nino was coming. But I think there are problems to both sides. There are so many things that are cultural to all of us. When we throw plastic bags everywhere, we don't think about the consequence that they clog the drainages. When we all do not address calamity preparedness, we always discover the new crisis as it walks along. But you know, we also have another weakness. We want to look to government for anything that goes wrong. Government does not tell you to go and throw plastic bags on the street. We do it because of an absence of collective discipline. Now, that's just one level. I have not been here sufficiently to see the valiance of the people who have helped to contribute in the face of the Huruma crisis. But my heart goes out to the victims.
Yeah.
But I think we can do better.
Yeah.
Of course, there's some way exaggerating. BBC World Service had a statement that 50% of the buildings in Nairobi are condemned.
See that?
Sounds good to them. You're demonizing, but it's utter nonsense.
Yeah.
But the reality is, we play into the ways of such people when we see quack architects do Githurai architecture without any credible assessment, or even condemned buildings continue having people occupied.
Yeah, I was going to allude to that, Dr. Ari, because we play into the stereotypes that you're talking about, whether it's our tribal politics, if you will, and we are very tribal, aren't we?
Well, you are. Partly you are not alone, but partly you can do a lot better, I think.
Is it our fault, Dr. Ari? Because every mention of every sentence these days has a political angle. Oh, it's you're doing this because you're this and this. Oh, you're doing this because you're that and that. I mean, we are so tribal, but look,
let me tell you something. At the personal level, one of the things that really disappointed me about my country is I look back to the early 90s when I joined competitive politics in Kenya. Our rallying calls were not tribal. Our sense of purpose and the divide politically was not tribal. We had a sense of national renewal, and we're very optimistic about a resurgent Kenya, which will take its rightful place in the community of nations. I think in many ways we have taken steps backwards. The mainstream now is very defensive, very accusatory. You look at tribe as an excuse or a reason to interpret conduct, and that's very, very unfortunate.
Yeah. Someone on Twitter was saying earlier on, we want Dr. Mukhisa Kituyi to be our Luya candidate for president in 2022.
I will never be candidate for anything for a tribe.
Will we ever outgrow that? Will we ever mature to pick somebody like you, regardless of tribe?
No, you have 43 million, 44 million good people in this country. I think, I don't think we picked Mwai Kibaki for president because he was a Kikuyu. I think Central Kenya was the last area of this country to totally embrace Mwai Kibaki. And I think something has been lost in the post-Kibaki politics.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dr. Ari. We're going to take a break, come back, talk about UNCTAD and the July conference. It's going to be huge, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Huge.
And I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Excellent, me too. Keep tweeting at UNCTAD Kituyi, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag July Summit. We are talking to one of the biggest brains in town, folks. He's the Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, based in Geneva, highest ranking Kenyan in the UN system. If you want to be inspired, this is the show. By the way, Dr. Ari, people are asking for jobs on Twitter for you, huh? Where people saying, you know, I want to work for the UN.
We can talk about that also.
Chef Koinange live at the Villa Rosa Kempinski takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.
There is a reason Africa is called the new frontier. What was once potential is now an opportunity ready to be seized. Once revered for our resources, today's wealth lies in our people who build